Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with the most important question on Reddit. Am I the bunghole? Let's dig in and see what today's question is. Am I the bunghole for not helping my mom and stepdad with care bills? My dad died when I, a 19 male, was 9. When I was 11, my mom married my stepdad. I have a brother, Chris, 14 male, who has extremely severe autism. He needs a lot of support with his everyday needs. He gets frustrated, and unfortunately, as he's gotten older, he started to lash out physically at the people around him. I'm going to hold on my comments, by the way. When I was little, I got on with my mom okay, but as a teenager, we had a lot of arguments. A lot of it had to do with my stepdad wanting to have the authority of a father over me, and me never really accepting that. But I also got pushed to the side a lot as all the focus went on looking after my brother, and that made me angry. I admit I became a bit of a tearaway, drinking and not getting back until early hours of the morning. When I was 17, my mom sent me to one of those residential schools for troubled kids, literally like you see on these crappy daytime TV shows, which I'm pretty sure is where she got the idea. I had no idea it was going to happen, and the school sent 2 members of the staff to get me out of bed in the middle of the night. I was there for 6 months. It was pretty hellish, like a military-style thing with morning inspections and sad middle-aged men in silly uniforms barking orders at children. I was allowed to call from my mom 1 week after the first month, but I never took them. She also wrote me a few letters, but I never read them. When I turned 18, they couldn't legally keep me there, and the plan was for my mom to come and pick me up, but I decided on my 18th birthday just to leave by myself. The school threw an absolute fit, tried to call my mom, told me that I was being irresponsible, but I told them to mess off. It was a bit difficult because I didn't have any money or a phone, and the school was pretty rural, but I managed to borrow a phone and call a friend who came to pick me up. I moved around between friends for a bit, but I'm pretty well set up now. I blocked my mom on everything and pretty much made sure she couldn't get in touch with me. The other thing that happened when I turned 18 was that a fund my dad set up for me when I was born became accessible. There's now a lot of money in it, and I mean a lot. My brother has a fund too, but I don't think anyone can get to it till he's 18. Recently, my step-aunt reached out to me out of the blue to say that my mom and stepdad have been really struggling financially with Chris's care costs, especially now he is getting older and more difficult for mom to control. She said my mom was sorry about the way things happened between us and wanted me to come home. I said I wasn't interested in being part of the family now just because she needed my money. My aunt said that I was cruel and that I had only ever made things more difficult for my mom. I feel a bit guilty about Chris, especially since we used to be close and I was good at calming him down, but I've just had it with my mom. Okay, so we've got a lot to unpack here. Before we get into it, I'm going to say I can identify a lot with this poster. And I want that to be abundantly clear because y'all, if you've been here a while, you probably know where this is going. But I did not have a good relationship when my mom remarried her third husband. It was physically and mentally abusive, and there was a lot of friction. And when I was 13, I got kicked out, and I had somewhere to go. When my brother was 15, he ran away. They had put him in a facility, and when he came home, he booked it. He took out. And so I identify a lot with this. But what I'm going to say now is going to probably hurt some feelings. You are the bunghole here, but it's not behind the bills. Like, that is separate. We'll get to that in a minute. But you admit that the problems was you. And I absolutely don't doubt that because most of my problems was me and most of my brother's problems was my brother. The fact that we didn't want to be disciplined. Well, guess what? You need discipline, regardless of whether or not you want it. And if your mother resorted to putting you into one of those hellish military-style camps with old, sad men in military uniforms barking orders at children, it's because it was a last resort. And apparently you learned absolutely nothing. Apparently you were still quite self-centered. Apparently you were still quite full of yourself and very much victimhood person. Like, you were one of those people who like to live in victimhood. I can tell from what you have posted here that there is nothing outside of that for you. You're the type of person that can win the lottery and bitch about having to pay the taxes. You're the type of person that can be gifted with a pot of gold and be looking for the curse and telling everybody that it was really a curse because now everybody wants money, or like you're that guy. And yeah, you're a male. And so you need to grow up. You really do. Now, I'm not telling you to spend your money on this. I'm not. The money is not the issue here. The love of money is the root of all evil, not money itself. And there seems to be a lot of love of money going on here. We'll get to that in a second. But you need to get a hold of yourself. Now, you moved out, you took control of that situation and all of that, but you did that and it wasn't necessary. You did that because you are rebellious bunghole. You are the bunghole in that whole part of that situation. You specifically chose to be. You specifically chose to be contrary and anti-authoritarian and anti-discipline and drinking as a teenager, and like I did too. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying you chose that, and that is childishness. You need to learn to put that behind you and look at whether or not the situations are as bad as you remember them. Now, most of the time they are not. Some of the time they are. There are actual cases of abuse and things that are really bad, right? That they really cause these type of situations. But sometimes it is just the way society is wired these days to be anti-family. And so when the stepdad moved in, and I don't know anything about the stepdad except that he wanted to discipline you from being out of the box. And so when he moved in, there was friction, and you, watching all these TV shows and all of this, knew that there should be friction, and so you created more friction. And you were jealous because your brother was getting attention, and that is perfectly understandable and a perfectly valid feeling. It is something that you feel, right? Feelings are valid. You're supposed to feel that. You're supposed to learn how to deal with that, right? You're not supposed to live in that and reside in that. When you feel jealousy because your brother is getting more attention, you need to figure out where you feel you are lacking, because you feel you are lacking somewhere else. It's not even got nothing to do with your brother. You're not getting something from your mom. You had a good relationship with your mom, right? That's what you said when you were little. You got on with your mom okay, but as a teenager, you had arguments. Well, she got married at 11. Well, teenagers right after 11. It's 12 and then teenager. So you went into, you were perfectly fine before your mom got married. I know the feeling. And then when that happened, everything went to shit. I know the feeling. And so I understand that. But you need to man up. You need to learn. And you're 19. You're not going to. You probably got another 10 years before you finally get a little bit of head on your shoulders. It'll be at least 5 years before you stop and look at this. Right? And then it'll be 5 years after that before you really look at it. And so as a 19-year-old, you're not going to man up like that, but you need to. You need to figure out where you're the problem in this situation. Now, the financial part. That money is yours. Your dad set that up for you. That money is yours to do with as you choose. Period. Your mom and your stepdad are responsible for your brother's bills. Period. That is not your responsibility. Now, whether or not you should give is between you and God. That ain't got nothing to do with me. But if that money was set aside for you, and you have your money that was given to you, I don't see the issue. That ain't got nothing to do with anybody else. The relationship part of this, nobody can make you reach out to anybody. It was years before I talked to my mom. Years. It was years before my brother talked to my mom. It was years. We're in a good place now. Like all of us, we're all in a good place now. But once upon a time, it was not a good place. Once upon a time, we did not talk. Once upon a time, we were isolated. Once upon a time, money had a lot to do with it. And now, like, money's a whatever. But back when I was 19 and in the Navy and this wild now, yeah, I get it. Long story short, you're not the bunghole for the money, but you are the bunghole for how you act and how your attitude is. Now, it does not appear that your mom is asking for the money. She's probably mentioned to your stepdad that you've got the money. And maybe, like, I didn't see anything, I don't think, where you said that she reached out to you for the money. So maybe she doesn't even know. That might be something that she's not even involved in. That happens more than you would like to believe. The mom mentions to the dad that there's these two funds, right? Or to the stepdad, there's these two funds, and they're set up for the kids, and now they know you've got it because you turned 18. And they thought you were going to go back to the house and help them with bills. And that was piss poor planning on their part. That's not your emergency. They are responsible for that. There are programs to help with that. There are all kinds of things. I don't know where you're at, but here, like, we have really terrible mental health here in Louisiana. But even we have services. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion. I'm harsh on this one right here because this is me. Like, I understand this one intricately. Like, this is literally could be part of my backstory. And so I understand the motivations behind this in a very real way. And that makes me very not tolerant of ignorance and foolishment, right? This is foolishment. That's what this is. Like, you're fully free to walk away from a toxic environment. And we don't know the specifics of what the environment was in the household. It could have been quite toxic. We don't have those specifics. It does not appear to be that way. It appears to be somebody was overbearing with discipline. That's not ideal, but it is not necessarily abusive in the manner, like, some of us got beat with things, right? And some of us didn't eat, and some of us had emotional abuse, and some of us had some real problems. And so it doesn't appear that that was this, that it appears that this was an authoritarian problem. And so that's what needs to be worked out, is your problem with authority. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. You are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way that you are. This has been Pittstake. Peace.